Hello, I'm Peter Parsons, your town supervisor. I'm here on the Ides of March of 2019 to look back on the last half year in Lewisboro and what has happened. Personally, my time has been concentrated on four things in particular. First of all, fulfilling Lewisboro's part of the affordable housing agreement so that we no longer have a target painted on our back. We did that by doing two things. First of all, we have passed the model ordinance as required in the agreement between HUD and the county. Second, we have approved the Lewisboro Commons, which is a development on Route 22, and I think this will be a first-class affordable housing development. I would suggest that each of you think about any parents, any grandparents, and possibly younger children, like in their 20s, who are looking for some form of affordable housing in Lewisboro, and consider this as a possible location. It is not, sometimes the publicity has suggested that this housing is for people outside Lewisboro. Well, it can be for people outside Lewisboro, but it is certainly also for people inside Lewisboro. And if we look at Bridleside in North Salem, which is a very similar development done by the same developer, you will find that a large number of the people who live in Bridleside come from North Salem or are related to people who currently live in North Salem. A second thing I've spent a lot of time on is your electric power supply. I've served on a county committee working with NYSEG to reduce the number of outages. This has been pretty darn important in this town because we've had more outages than I like to count. What have we been doing specifically? We have been very successful, I believe, in working on a tree trimming program with NYSEG, and that has resulted in way fewer branches coming down on the wires or brushing the wires continually and causing momentary outages. In addition, with our encouragement, NYSEG has increased the number of reclosures in town and got them up to a level which is probably what we need. Reclosures are simply a method of reducing the number of homes out of power when there is an outage. In other words, they're switches which quickly locate where there is power and try to switch you to that power. Thirdly, NYSEG is working with the Public Service Commission to try to get permission to install monitors which will allow them to know whether the meter in your house is functioning. If it doesn't function, they know there's an outage. At the moment, the only way NYSEG knows that you are out is when you call and tell them. It's obviously better if they know by monitoring your meter whether you're out or not. So far, unfortunately, the Public Service Commission seems to have been reluctant to approve this, and they have to before it can happen. And I think that's sad, particularly when you look at the states around us, and you will find that the norm is for the local power company to be able to monitor where they're delivering power and whether that power is functioning. Third, the cell tower in Cross River. This is a vital part of our infrastructure, not just because when somebody comes to buy a house in this town, if they find that the house does not have cell service, they look at us as if we're coming from, back in the times of King Alfred or something. They really expect cell service as a standard utility. All right, now it's particularly important in Cross River because we've got 2 big schools there, which currently don't have cell service. We have the Lewisboro Volunteer Ambulance Corps. We have the most dangerous stretch of road in the whole of town, measured not just in terms of accidents, but measured in terms of accidents with real injuries. We have the shopping centers. We have Four Winds Hospital. We have Michelle Estates, the Meadows, and I believe that the tower will be up and functioning this fall. Maybe late this fall, but this fall. The town board took the final decision on this earlier this week when it agreed that the color should be beige in the lower levels, disappearing into white smoke above. This is, if you want to see what that looks like, simply take a look at the tower in Vista, at the firehouse in Vista. It's, quite honestly, a lot of the people in Vista don't seem to notice it's even there until it's pointed out to them. Finally, the last thing that's been taking a lot of my time is the governor's proposal to legalize recreational cannabis. I have been lobbying as hard as I can to gain some, at least, local control over the distribution of cannabis. Obviously, I'm sure nobody is going to force me to put it next door, to put a distribution center next to a school, but I'd like to have a little bit more freedom than that. Maybe the simple freedom to opt out of distribution in Lewisboro altogether. I'm not saying that's where I'm going, but I at least want the freedom to make that decision. And I've spent quite a lot of time understanding as much as I can what the state is likely to do on this and how we can get ourselves in a position to control the fate of Lewisboro. What else has been happening? Infrastructure in Lewisboro. The Salt Dome will be rebuilt or re-roofed this summer. 75% of the cost will be borne by New York City because it is a way of protecting their water supply. Next, the townhouse. We're doing a major refurbishing of the townhouse. This summer, the first thing we will do is to get rid of the asbestos in the cellar. The second thing we will do is to replace the siding because the current siding is plain rotten. We're going to keep the federal blue color, except it will be rather brighter than the current because the current is more than ancient. We're going to replace the heating and air conditioning system. And we're also going to replace the windows, which will make the building far more energy efficient. But we will keep the current style of the windows. And I owe a lot to our maintenance department, who has been searching for a way to do that successfully. Finally, we've put a composting toilet into Outages. That is in addition to the existing toilet, because quite honestly, our facilities there are not sufficient to handle the number of people using Outages Park. Let's go next to Lewisboro and the world we live in. And we've done 4 things in the last 6 months to try to improve or lessen Lewisboro's impact on the world. First of all, we have banned reuse. We have required stores to use reusable bags, or to sell reusable bags, and to avoid the use of single-use plastic bags. In fact, we banned single-use plastic bags. Why? Because plastic is poisoning our oceans. The fish who live there are also being poisoned with toxic chemicals out of the plastic. And we ourselves, when we eat the fish, are quietly beginning to poison ourselves with the same toxic chemicals. This is really a little bit crazy. When I grew up, we didn't use plastic bags. We used either paper or we walked with a shopping basket. It was a very easy way to shop, and we need to get back to some basics whereby we actually care about the environment we live in, and in particular, the plastic ban could really help our oceans. We're not alone in this. We followed Westport and Chappaqua. In addition, since we passed it, Stamford, Greenwich, and New Canaan have adopted essentially the same law, and Pound Ridge is in the process of doing it. Quite honestly, I'm quite proud of Lewisboro's leadership in this area. Next area, what we're calling Heat Smart. We have just begun a campaign in combination with Bedford and Pound Ridge to make geothermal heat available to people in this town. It's quite simply a way of heating and cooling your home using heat from the ground. It won't work for everybody, but I think it could be a major contributor, together with the solar power campaign that we had a year ago at least. I think the two together could do a lot to reduce our reliance on the grid. We're going to introduce composting at the recycling center. It'll be on Saturday mornings, and I think we will get this done we will get the administration worked out within a month. Maybe the biggest thing we've done is Lewisboro is going to move to New York Hydro as the default option for our electrical supply. We will do that on May 1st at a fixed price, which is 7/10 of a cent less per kilowatt hour than people are currently paying on the existing contract. So this does two things. It reduces the price you're paying for your electricity, and it gets us out of using any fossil fuels to generate that, and our power will be coming entirely from New York Hydro. There is one thing we failed to do so far in this area, which is to negotiate for a day-night rate, which makes sense. We will continue working on it, and in the end, we'll get there. Finally, quality of life issues. If you walk Leon Levy, you will see that the Black Mansion now looks like the centerpiece of the preserve, which it always has been, but you couldn't see it because it was covered in creepers and everything else. Now you see it in all its glory. We have now got a domestic violence resource center available to us, and we share it because the towns in northeastern Westchester have worked together on this. We share this with Somers, Bedford, North Salem, Pound Ridge, and obviously ourselves. So I see it, that is the most common violent crime in our town. It happens way more often than it should and that we would like. And we need to make resources available to the victims of domestic violence, because at the moment, or previously, people had to go down to the south of the county or conceivably to Peekskill before they could get the help they needed. I know that the loss of a grocery store in Cross River has been a major blow to that entire hamlet and to everybody else trying to do business there. The Greenway is the name of the new supermarket which is coming in. I believe it will be excellent. They have really thought about what is needed in Cross River. It's owned by the Estevez brothers, who have significant experience in this area. And in addition, they clearly understand the importance of being part of contributing to the community in which they're going to work. They have, in fact, decided to sponsor Shakespeare's Julius Caesar in the town park on July 20th. I suggest you bring your kids. This is a very easy to understand Shakespearean play, and it's about something that we all, I would hope, understand. It's about representative government versus dictatorship. That is a pretty key thing in the world in which we live, where we are seeing this conflict in many countries around us. In addition, there is a new fitness store. If you eat too much at Greenway, you can go downstairs below and go to Apex Fitness and get rid of those pounds which you just consumed, courtesy of Greenway. In Oak Ridge, in Vista, there is a brand new childcare operation. It's being run by Polly Peace, who has got a massive experience in this area. And so the Country Children's Center is now available to parents in this town in Oak Ridge. And I would suggest you take a look at it if you're a candidate to use this kind of facility, because it is totally, amazingly good. Pickleball. This is a favorite of mine But as we get a little bit older, it is harder for us to keep up with a tennis ball on a tennis court. And there is a game called pickleball, and we have created courts at the town park. And pickleball is a combination almost of table tennis and tennis. You don't have, quite simply, you don't have to move as much as you do in tennis. In tennis, tennis is really a game in which you have to run a lot and move a lot. Pickleball, you still have a racket and hit a ball, but the need for movement is significantly reduced, allowing people of my age and some people who are younger, quite a lot younger, to play the game and really enjoy it. That is now at the town park on the same court as the basketball court. And we will read the new Park and Rec brochure, and you will see how we're introducing that to town. We all need some relaxation in our life. And with that in mind, the town board has changed our zoning to allow a limited number of wineries, microbreweries, and mini distilleries in the town. There are only a few locations which qualify, but that's enough. And I am hopeful that that will encourage business in our town. I was really sad when about 18 months ago, I discovered that a microbrewery had wanted to come to town and had been given a flat no because there is the code, building code or zoning code just does not allow a microbrewery. That's why we made the changes. I think it will help make Lewisboro a more desirable place to live. We need to sell our homes, and we need to think how we make the town more desirable. I think one of the huge things that's emerging in town is the role which the Lewisboro Library is playing as a social center and in town. Not just a place where you get books, although you've still got all the books in the world just about accessible via that library, but the number of concerts, the number of interesting events. I went to a talk the other day called On the Great Stain, which was a fascinating presentation of a book by a town author about slavery. It was really interesting and really well done. And there are things which the library is doing which are making it more and more a social center and a community center in Lewisboro. In the same vein, we had a very successful newcomers event at Honor True a couple of weeks ago, where we, which was obviously limited to newcomers to the town, where we had a crowd of about 20 people, which is quite a lot when you limit it to newcomers, and tried to introduce them to Lewisboro and to each other. Because often when people move to this town, unless they have kids in an elementary school immediately, it is hard for them to make friends and to get to know people. This was an effort to answer that, and I thank my Park and Rec department for making that happen. Last item under quality of life, fireworks. Fireworks on Saturday, June 29th at Onatru. They always are amazing, and they will be amazing. We thank Mercedes-Benz of Golden's Bridge for funding this. It is a really big community contribution. And at the same time, as they are investing heavily in their building in their dealership in this town, and the plans which they have presented are obviously a huge improvement on where we are, let alone on what I remember, which was the old Texaco gas station, which stood there. I think we've come a long, long way. How about the future? The biggest single item on our agenda is moving forward with a master plan for the town. I think that master plan will probably end up concentrating on the three major hamlets: Vista, Cross River, and Golden's Bridge. That's where things are happening. That's where we need to make sure we have got a vision of what we want. I want to, all of you will have, whether you live in those hamlets or not, will have many opportunities to contribute your point of view to this, to our thinking before we come up with any plan. A master plan is a long process, and it will not be effective or useful unless we get major participation from the population of the town. I would urge you to keep up with the official town newspaper, the Record Review, because that is how you are most likely to find out a lot about it. Also, Lewisboro Television Channel 20, between the two, we will try our best to make the information available to you. Obviously, the town website, but understand, a master plan can only be as good as your contribution. And that's what I really want to spend my time on over the next few months, probably the next year. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening. Have a great day and enjoy Lewisboro.
You're watching Lewisboro Community Television, Channel 20.